The Coaching Hour with
Tumelo Tolakai
on Zoe Live Radio. www.zoeliveradio.co.za.
Good evening. Welcome to the Coaching Hour. I'm your host, Khensani Chauke. It's Tuesday night and it's a date night with me. We know that each and every Tuesday we come together and we come to the coaching hour to learn, to be equipped, to be transformed, and to grow in areas that we didn't know that we needed growth. So we are continuing with our subject, understanding what emotional intelligence is, when can we apply it, how can we apply it, what is it that we need to do? And tonight we are going to discuss the tools that we need to be able to have EQ, and we are also going to do EQ versus IQ. So tonight we have our beautiful coach, Coach Yoga.
Thanks for having me again.
Good evening, Coach. Welcome. And how are you?
I'm very well, very well. I had such a hectic week last week. It's nice to be back in your studio tonight.
Yeah.
Lots of events, lots of radio interviews and things happening. But, you know, it's all about time management, and energy management.
So true, so true. I remember I did attend one of your workshops last week. We're going to talk about it later on in the show. And thank you so much for coming through again this evening as we are going to learn and continue with the topic of emotions. What are emotions? Because when emotions overwhelm you and you simply don't know what to do next. Number one, we don't really know how to manage them. And sometimes it's like last week after we spoke about what emotional intelligence is, I was left with, I was asking myself, how do I feel about myself and by myself? It was some of the things that I was asking myself, how you feel about yourself and by yourself. Can you be by yourself without being in a group of people? Are you able to control your emotions when you feel angered? Are you able to control your emotions when you are misunderstood? Because sometimes you become emotional when you're trying to communicate with people and they misunderstood what you were trying to say to them. And as you can already tell, emotions are a complicated subject. It's a very complicated subject. And I normally say that God created us with emotions. They are a part of who we are. God did not give us emotions to make others like our lives miserable, but to help us relate to one another. So how does this emotions work? And I remember I had one question from one of our viewers. Let me check a question. And she said, her first question was, what does training EQ look like? So I know that we're going to go into that. And before we start with our show tonight, Coach, and before you introduce yourself, I would like to tell all our viewers and listeners, go grab a coffee, have a pen and a notepad, and then come and listen to what Coach Yoga is going to say. And now she's going to introduce herself. If you missed her last week, she's going to tell us what she does, who is she, where is from, how can we find her. Coach, kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Khensani. It's so lovely to be back. So I am Chauke van Dam. I originally come from the small town of Nelspruit, and I'm based in Johannesburg. So what I do is I specifically help leaders, teams, and individuals to grow, to innovate, and to build teams that can really be profitable and that can find their flow. But a lot of people, like last week at my workshop where we were talking about, retaining star employees, which was, that target audience was very much your HR managers, CEOs of companies, where I would work on things like a retention strategy, or I would consult with them on what can they do to improve their team. So we'd be looking at some of the elements that you would find in EQ as well, like mastery, training them on the people skills, but also it could be sales skills, leadership skills, a wide variety to get them to really flourish in their job. But what I also do with individuals, because I know a lot of the people on this show are thinking like, well, I'm not an HR manager, I'm not a CEO, so how can Yoga help me? So where I help individuals is twofold. I've often helped a lot of smaller businesses. So a person that is thinking of starting a business to do everything from their sales strategy to their speaking skills to also like helping them if they're trying to pitch to investors, to really like put their sales script together, but also work on their confidence. But then when people are in a corporate career and they are not thinking of starting their own business, where I've helped a lot of people that are struggling with confidence. So I do NLP coaching, and it's really about getting them to overcome those fears and limiting beliefs and get them to step into their confidence. So I've personally seen through my presentation boot camps and my NLP coaching for individuals, I've seen people change careers, get promotions, get on large stages. So like some people have spoken at Sun City, some of the facilitators have gone on to facilitate internationally. So really like giving people both the skill of speaking, the storytelling side, but also the confidence side. So it's like it's not just the skill, it's also like what's happening in your brain. So, so that's really, my business is called Y Connect. So if you go to y-connect.biz, you'll get on my website. If you go to the shop, there's a lot of free resources you can download. There's some shorter things you can download, and you can get onto the waiting list for my next boot camp that will be happening end of June. So also one-on-one coaching, people can book it right there. So y-connect.biz. And I am Yoke van Dam. So you can also search for me, YOKEVANDAM, or you can call me at 076 7900 582. There you go. So that's how people can find me. And from there's my YouTube channel, my Facebook, my Instagram. If you're on the website, you get all the social. It's too much to talk about all of that. Get onto the website, and from there, you can go to the social channels, the newsletter, the blogs, so there's always a lot of free resources. So if you get on the mailing list, then you can get access to what are the upcoming webinars or events or the latest blogs that's coming out. So then you will be notified. Yeah. So in a nutshell, for individuals, that's what I do. But obviously for corporates, I do women in leadership programs. I do emotional intelligence programs. I do keynote speaking. I do team builds, wide variety of things, but really all in all, building teams to be in flow and engaged, because ultimately you'll find, I was speaking to a coach of mine. Remember I said to you, we're always growing. Last week I said to you, and he was saying to me, what happens if people don't develop the EQ as teams? What emotions are they going through? And I said to him, the symptoms, what you'll see is a lot of employees that are really unhappy in their job. They either they start eating a lot, they start drinking a lot, they start having sleeping problems because they're unfulfilled. They go and read a lot of motivational books because they feel like, oh, there's something missing in my life. They start going to clinics, they start not arriving at work because they're not feeling that they are in their purpose and that they're aligned to the values and the purpose of the business. So what I'm trying to do is you'll find internationally, most companies have a very low percentage of engaged employees, people that are happy to be there, people that are driven, people that are productive. A lot of people are just there for the paycheck, and some of them are actually very damaging to the reputation. So they'll actually not do great customer service. And then you'll get the Hello Peters happening and people complaining on Facebook about the business. So they're actually dragging the business down. So my aim is to help those businesses. But what you'll find is if people are okay, they're not really going to do anything about it. But if they're like really bad and everyone's fighting with them and now they're getting the bad reviews, probably those are the people that are sitting at a place where they're like, we're so frustrated, something needs to change. You don't go to a dietitian if you just need to lose 2 kgs. You go there if you need to lose 50. You know what I mean? So what I've found is it's really the people that some of my clients just want to improve. They are good already, but some of them are at that place where if you had to measure them on an EQ staff engagement level, they're very low. There's conflicts, there's, passive aggressiveness, there's toxic culture, all of that. And that's where the HR manager, the CEO goes like, we are willing to invest money to do something with this team because it can't carry on like this anymore, But like what I want to say as a coach, in your own life, are you only going to do something when it's a real disaster? Or are you going to start noticing, wow, I am unfulfilled, I'm not sleeping well? Like that coach of mine was saying, Bruce, he was like, if a baby doesn't sleep, you take them to the doctor. But adults, what do? They just push through. They'll just wrestle through the day. They don't realize like, possibly there's something in my psyche, in my wellness that's not in place. And now it's being portrayed physically in my body. And maybe I need to do something about it. But adults, no, we'll burn out. We'll just push through, and it's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not, because emotions helps us to learn new things and understand others and push us to take action. So sometimes we will find that when you are like too emotional, like you said, they overeat. I remember at some point when I was going through my divorce, I think it was in 2016. Okay, yes, I started gaining weight in 2017, late 2017 to 2018, because what I used to do, I used to, in the evening after I've done everything after work and when the kids are in bed, I will start feeling lonely. I'll be like all sorts of emotions. And how I used to cope with the emotions, I will eat a lot. Like in the evening, 10 o'clock, I'm starting to snack and with unhealthy stuff just to cope. And after eating, I will sleep. And it started as if it's just something that will go away. Today you will eat chocolate and go to sleep, and tomorrow it's a packet of chips, and
but it adds up, hey? It just adds up.
It's tea and cookies and all that. Before I knew it, I was like 90 something kg, which I didn't have, and now here is the weight. I need to lose it again. I'm emotional now again that I'm too fat and I don't know what to do with my body. So it's very challenging, because of some, they can see that no, whatever that is stressing me so much needs me to change and take action. Some, they add more stress and we start feeling miserable, we start feeling useless, we start feeling all sorts of feelings, and at the end of the day we start pity ourselves. Then we whatever that
then you'll eat again. so like what I've also found with the whole eating thing, it's something that I'm consciously always working on, is we've been preconditioned to believe that if we need to motivate ourselves, so this is like a lie that we've been told, we need to like almost take a whip and whip ourselves. So now let's say after gaining that weight, if you look in the mirror, you'll say to yourself, oh, look at you. How could you allow this to happen? You're not looking great, but now you're actually getting into a worse state. You're not getting into an inspired state to want to exercise or eat healthy. You're actually like bringing yourself even more down. So you need to get into the mindset of, it's okay. Let's do something about it. Not where I want to be. This is what I want to work from. It's what we spoke about last week as well, the reframing. So say to yourself, I'm not skinny right now, but what your brain hears is, I've not been eating so healthy. So, so you're actually conditioning yourself to start eating healthy. I've not really enjoyed eating healthy. I've not found it easy to make healthy choices. Now you're saying to yourself what you need to start doing versus you make junk choices where you're actually like judging yourself and being horrible. So it's like, I loved what you were saying, Khensani. How are you by yourself? What were you saying at the beginning? You had a beautiful thing that you said.
Say how you feel about yourself
by yourself. And that's like, how do you talk to yourself? Would you talk that way to a friend? Probably not. So you need to talk to yourself in the way as if you're encouraging your little girl or your little boy.
Exactly. It's like, what kind of conversations do you have with yourself? What are things that you say to yourself? Are you speaking to yourself negatively or positively? But at the end of the day, we want to know how you feel about yourself by yourself. When you're alone, can you survive on your own? Because at the end of the day, you cannot always have, there's a time in your life where you have to move alone, and there's a time where you need to move with a team, even though you have a team. But how do you feel by yourself, on your own? Are you able to put yourself together and stand by what you believe in? Because sometimes emotions can impede out judgment or make us act irrationally. So, there's a lot of things that are happening, and I will look into leaders a lot, and I'll find that maybe sometimes they look into the power that they have, because if you are an employee, there's a certain standard as an employee that you need to maintain as an employee, and there's a certain standard that you need to maintain as a leader. And sometimes I feel like the leaders misuse their leadership skills. Instead of building the ones that are below, they use that position to destroy them. And just imagine now, let's say I need to go to the office, but there is that one manager that makes me feel so useless. It doesn't matter what I do, but they never celebrate what I do. They never say congratulations. They never say well done. Like, they always complain about me, and I've been there for 5 years. How do I feel about myself?
I can share something about that if you want. So when I was studying NLP, we learned about an internal and an external frame of reference. And I remember my mother saying this to me. She was always saying, you need to love yourself the most, and you need to set your own standards and give yourself the okay. So she was saying a lot of people will, let's say they will dress nicely when they're going to the office, but they'll only think that they're good enough when their friends, their colleagues, their clients say to them, wow, Khensani, what a nice outfit. Look at your hair, nice lipstick, or, good profile. While if you're not going to always get that from other people. And if you are basing your worth on what other people say about you, you're actually giving your power away. So what you should do is you should value your own opinion more than that boss or that client. You need to, but not to get into like a narcissistic headspace where you just think like you are, God's gift to the world, but just into a place of, I'm going to do things to the best of my ability. I'm going to have a positive attitude. I'm going to, no matter what those people say, still show up and not get thrown off if they're giving me the look or whatever. I'm going to decide to take my own control back and do something about it. But I know it's seriously hard. I also worked in very toxic work environments, and one of them had someone like that. And I had to go through a lot of coaching to be able to develop that positive self-worth. And one of the things that I actually developed, it was my period where I was studying NLP. And one of the colleagues came up to me and said, wow, even when this guy is yelling, because he would be in that environment where he would just like snap and yell, but you know, like where people come into your space, and it was like getting into your bubble and yelling you in your ear, and it's not even something that you did. And this guy just said to me, wow, it's like you have a shield around you. You were just like protected, and you could just continue, and where the other people would crumble or run away or whatever, I was like calm and okay. So with coaching, you can get to that place where other people's toxic things doesn't have to throw you anymore. And that was specifically with NLP anchoring that I was able to do that. Not to say that it's always working 100%, not at all, but I mean, that's what one of the things that I wanted to say, if you wanted to work on being okay on your own, it could be things like doing a gratitude list every night to write down for yourself, what am I happy about? Something that I did today. What am I happy about? Something someone else did for me today. So you kind of like start looking for 3 to 5 things that you are really grateful for. And it could have to do with the country, your environment, your family, your work, like a wide variety. It could be a movie that you watched that inspired you, or an amazing radio interview with Khensani where you learned some core skills, you know. But when you're focusing on gratitude, you can't be depressed. So you can't have 2 emotions at the same time. So if you're forcing yourself to go and say, I'm now going to look for something that I'm grateful for, you'll actually start feeling much more positive. But what ends up happening is, especially in our country, I found people are very pessimistic. And I don't know if you've seen with social media, the moment there's load shedding or something about home affairs or the traffic department, people go into a very negative spin, and then they all like resharing, commenting, and it just goes negative, 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 negative. So don't engage in those things. Don't engage in those negative conversations at all. Just like walk away from those things and focus on what is in your own control. Don't be pulled by the negativity. So like, I don't know if you follow positive psychology, Khensani?
No, I'm not sure.
So there's a guy called Dr. Martin Seligman. He's the father of positive psychology, and he basically gives you a formula for happiness. And as part of that formula, it starts off with gratitude. So even when I'm working with teams that could be like in a sad space where people have left, or, you know, they're not in a good space, if you start your session where everyone has to say, what are they grateful for? Immediately the mood shifts in the room. Now people are sharing they're grateful for their kids. They're grateful to have a job. They're grateful to have survived COVID. Suddenly there's like positive things that is coming out. So his research, I think you'll absolutely love it. He actually, they did research on these nuns, you know, that were like in their 80s, and they were at that specific nunnery for, I don't know, like 20 to 30 years. And they were looking at a photo where they were young and a photo when they were older. And the people that had smiled in the first photo, okay, this may sound weird, okay, but they were like more positive, they were smiling. They actually lived longer than the people that weren't smiling. So they've found that people that have a more positive outlook in life, they're actually able to handle stress better, they have fewer heart attacks, they live a longer life, they have happier marriages. Just because they have a positive outlook, they'll make things work.
And another thing is okay, let's take it to the viewers and listeners. So while we are busy having a conversation with Coach Yoga, just comment and tell us what triggers your anger at your workplace. And then another one, please tell us what habits you want to change, like at your workplace. So you can comment and or you can remember Coach Yoga did send her details earlier on. She's going to do it again later. So if you don't want to comment on Facebook or on YouTube, you can send those answers to her. She will be able to help you. Remember, the first one is what triggers your anger at your workplace. Number two, what habits you want to change, whether they are good or bad, but what is it that you want to change at your workplace? And Coach, I know me and you, we are doing organizational change. And with regards into emotions, what is it that you think organization can do better or improve?
So I found that a lot of businesses, we spoke about that earlier offsite, tend to sometimes just focus on, they call people resources. So they don't actually see them as humans. And what they'll often do, so like on Friday in my event, I spoke about a retention strategy. So it was all about, it's always better to keep your employees and train them and enhance them versus allowing them to leave. But what you find is a lot of companies are not willing to actually invest in developing, for instance, the emotional intelligence of their teams. And what you'll often see, and my husband is always telling me this, so he's in the IT industry, and he says, get so frustrated, especially people that are, let's say they're in the IT industry, it's someone that's really technically strong. They'll end up saying, you're a great developer, let's make you a manager. But then this person has never had any leadership or management training in their life. Now suddenly they need to start having performance discussions. They need to have one-on-one meetings. They need to lead a meeting. They need to have sales meetings. So if you're thinking of the personality type of a developer, very often it can be more like they're very bright, they're problem solving, but very often they're more introverted. They don't necessarily have the people skills like you and I have. Okay. So now they're forced into that situation and suddenly they hate their job. Suddenly what they signed up for in terms of development is not their job anymore, but no one equips them. So he was in such a situation where he was forced into management and he hated it so much. I bought him a lot of books and he says he gets free training because he sits in the house and he hears me doing all of my workshops. So he says he gets a free training. But ultimately, he wanted to progress on the technical side, not on the management side. So I think what companies are doing wrong with their teams is they're not having the conversations to say, what are you really good at? What is it that you actually want to do? Let's do an aptitude test. Let's test your skills level to see, should you go into management? Should you go more into a technical lead side? And then also a lot of people get promoted. So like last year, I was training leaders at an airline, and they'd also never had leadership training. So what sometimes happens is now the person in a management role or supervisory role, their friends that they used to work with now don't respect them. And there's this whole thing of, are you treating everyone fairly? What's different between being a manager and just a normal employee? So there's a total different skill set you need. And the companies need to actually equip the employee to be able to do that. And then often what also happens is they're too scared to speak up. So there's not a lot of psychological safety to say, I need help me with this, because then the company will just say, okay, we'll demote you, instead of saying, let's get you ready for the role. Let's equip you for success. Let's make sure that you're actually aligned So your question was about emotions. So what happens is those poor employees get overwhelmed, they get angry, they get disappointed, and they're too scared to show this. And then very often they will actually just find another job because they feel like they pushed into something that they don't know how to do. So companies need to look at, can they actually equip people to master the skills that they need? And very often, I was training people in Pakistan actually 3 years ago, and now I'm doing a lot of it online. And I might be going to Dubai in June. And what I've found, I've had a lot of feedback from these leaders. And they've said it's also a different culture, but they've said they were always just rationally managing their teams. So they wouldn't see the difference between being a leader versus just being a manager. So they would just want to hold disciplinaries, but they would never want to say to the person, how can I help you? Can I coach you? Can I go with you to meetings? How can I support you? So they had to get to a place where they realized you're not going to get rid of the emotions. You need to work with it. It's a human being. It's a human being.
Sure. And if I hear you correctly, you say that personality and character do matter when it comes to leadership.
Definitely. It does. It does. I remember, so one of my sales positions I had many years ago was for company Pearson Publishers. And over there was the first time where I was exposed to a test where they would test your personality and aptitude and match it with what they want. So they had like a graph to say, for this sales position, they want a person to be able to connect with people, but still be a good listener, but still be able to present well. There was all of these areas that you needed to tick. And they wouldn't appoint someone if you weren't a personality fit to that position, because the research that they did was they showed originally like a truck driver. Let's say the graph for a truck driver meant a person that would be okay to be on their own most of the day, to have a very monotone job. It's kind of like the same thing for 8 hours, that would need to be able to concentrate really well, but be loyal, be trustworthy, because they are carrying all of your produce. Now, if they were putting a person as a truck driver that's really extroverted, that needs high stimulation, a lot of different things, they're not going to be able to cope driving 8 hours a day, doing the same thing. You get what I mean? So in the same way, you need to look at that. But obviously, people adapt and change. And I wanted to say to you earlier, have you read the book, The Power of Introverts by Susan Cain?
No, I haven't read it.
So that is an amazing one. I will drop it into the comments, but there's a beautiful TED Talk that she did. And she really, really, really inspired me to what you were speaking about earlier, when you were saying, how do you do on your own by yourself? How do you feel about yourself? Because for a long time, because my husband is an introvert, but he can be very social and he can be very quirky. But I had to realize, just because someone can talk to people doesn't mean that they get recharged in that way. So introvert and extrovert is, the extrovert is a person that feels better and gets energized after seeing people. Well, introvert is a person that gets recharged on their own. But what I learned through her book is she says that we all have an inner introvert as well, and that even if you like people, you get recharged by people. You need to actually schedule time for yourself to be creative and to problem solve. Because if you're always surrounded by other people, some of the most genius ideas actually happens on your own. And if you're never allowing time to think, you're never going to actually get to those ideas. So I was actually very inspired by her in realizing that, like you were saying, you need to be okay on your own. And that's what she's also saying. So she started this quiet revolution. It's really amazing. I'll put that link in the comments on the YouTube and Facebook as well, where people share their stories about being introverts and how they were judged and what they learned. Because what she does is she also encourages introverts to say, okay, you might not enjoy, spending time with people, networking, going to events, but your point of view is so important and your voice does need to be heard. So she was like, you need to make time to get out there and shine and bring your voice to the party.
Yeah.
So she encourages a bit of both,
We get bored quickly. I'll just say to myself that, no, that you see, today I'm going to show up to that baby shower and I want to stay until it ends. I'm telling you, after 3 hours, I'm done. All I want to do is to go home. And some people read it otherwise. They think that maybe you're full of yourself. And, I don't find it interesting on my side, but I do enjoy sitting alone at home. I can engage with you the whole day while I'm home. We can chat. I can do a lot of things when I'm on my own. And another strength that introverts have is they don't seek other people's approval.
You see.
We know how to make decisions. Like, I will decide to do something and I want us approval. And what do you think? No. It's a strength. On my side, I take it as a strength because I can see most of the people before they do certain things in their life. They want assurance from others.
People pleasing kind of, hey?
Yeah. What do you think? And all that. So sometimes
that's a big strength.
Yeah, I make decisions on my own, and it's, whether it's good or bad, at the end of the day, I did it anyway. I took a step, even though I was quiet about it and all that. And another thing is, I want us to go back to how does training EQ look like if somebody wants to have it? What does it look like? What muscles must we pull to have it? Because now we have all these recipes. We have, if I want to cook chicken, I can just go on YouTube and get a recipe for chicken. If I want to have a 6-pack, I can just go to YouTube and find a video that gives me steps on how to have a 6-pack and all that. But what muscle must we pull when it comes to having EQ skills?
So it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'll just share some of it, because the main 4 areas is self-awareness, self-regulating, then there's empathy, social, and relational influence. So those are the big 4 areas. But when you delve into every one of those areas, it actually becomes quite deep. So if you're looking at self-awareness, that's actually understanding, do you at any point in time, when I'm coaching people, say to them, when let's say they're feeling uncomfortable, where do you feel it in your body? So usually when we feel emotions, you'll feel it somewhere in your body. Some people feel things in their throat or their tummy, but you'll have a space where it actually feels uncomfortable. And also when it's feeling nice, when it's a exciting emotion, and then you need to be able to ask yourself, what is that emotion? So some of the exercises that I do with teams is we were, for instance, doing a positive emotion brainstorming. So they were looking at the different areas and saying, which of these emotions do they want more of? And what activities can they do to get those emotions? So what it actually came up with is they did a whole brainstorming exercise to see, what will give them. So if they're saying they're not having a lot of contentment, or they want to build their confidence, for instance, what will give them confidence? Would it be exercising more? Would it be doing more YouTube videos? Would it be, going clothing shopping and getting an outfit that really shows your body in a nice way? Would it be going for a haircut every now and again? Would it be doing gratitude exercises? Like, what are all of the things that you could do to get that emotion? And then to start noticing, is there things that you've done in your life and then new things? So like I was saying to this group, and now they're holding each other accountable. So they literally have this list of things, and I'm going to see them on Wednesdays. I'm going to ask them, what have you done? You know, what have you implemented? We've done this exercise now, like, what have you done? So that's just like one of the things. There's also some nice things to do with like color therapy, music therapy, that is also helping you to show you what emotion are you experiencing. So for instance, when I studied NLP, and when I do coaching with people, I'll often ask them when they get to the identity question of, who do you want to become when you are this person that's confident, in flow, and all of that? And then they'll say to me, they'll be like an eagle or a falcon. They'll come up with a metaphor of an animal. So what happens, it's actually in your unconscious mind. And then I'll say things to them like, what color is it? How does it sound? How does it feel? Where do you see it? So what you find with color and music, you call it submodalities. So submodalities has a huge impact on your unconscious mind and how you feel and process things. So when you do color and music therapy, you can actually move through emotions and actually get to a better place of understanding. So I do a lot of like kind of creative, wacky things in my workshop like that. I, for instance, got people to bring their favorite song, and they had to in the break go find it, and then they had to come back, and we found it on YouTube and played it, and they had to highlight what is the most important piece in the song and how does it make them feel. So you could do it both ways. You could focus on negative or positive, but I was thinking like, no, let's move to positive. And what you find, Khensani, the moment people are listening to uplifting music, I mean, there was a lady playing Don't Worry, Be Happy from, I think, Bob Marley. And someone had Tina Turner, Simply the Best. We had Thunder. There was all of, you know, like guys like different music than ladies and so forth. People were laughing and their state and their emotions immediately shifted. So it's all about like practicing different things to start to get to a place where you're noticing you have different emotions and there is things you can do about it. So self-awareness can really get quite deep. But then you get into like empathy, you get into self-regulating. So you were asking earlier for people, what are their triggers? So we do a lot of exercises on triggers, looking at your hot buttons. What is your current reactions and can you change them? So there's a lot of exercises, practical exercises that's done in the group context on that, you know. And there's an exercise that we do called the third ripple, where everyone kind of gets blown away because, let me give you an example. So I know this has been spoken about last week, but we spoke about the whole Oscar debacle where Will Smith hit Chris Rock, right? So he slapped him. So if you're looking at the third ripple, it's about the comedian said something, the wife had a certain reaction, then the husband went and hit the comedian. After doing that, usually when we do negative things, what do we get back? Negative things. So luckily, Chris Rock self-regulated and turned it into a joke and diverted the whole thing. But often what happens when people get triggered, so let's say there's a taxi that comes in front of you on the road, if people give themselves over to road rage, they'll start swearing, their tire might burst, they might go hit the taxi. Now the taxi driver gets out and it becomes a full-on fight, eventually with like police repercussions, people dead. So if you're looking at it from if we don't manage emotions, and it's like the 10th ripple, what would have happened by then? That's where your reputation is so damaged, where you cannot possibly come back from that, where you've lost clients, where you've lost employees, where you've lost your job. So when you do some of these exercises, you realize you need to catch yourself quickly. Sometimes you might react, and you'll send that email but you can quickly go back and apologize and rectify it. So can you quickly recover and make the other person feel okay again? And that's just some of the things. But then it gets into empathy and relationship management. So what I found in a course that I'm going to be doing in Dubai, it's going to be for leaders. So we focus on all the areas, but ultimately the areas that we want to focus more on is the empathy, social, and relationship management. Because as a leader, you are not just influencing yourself. Like you were saying earlier, Khensani, you were saying people walk in and their boss is negative or they're treating them badly and they've been working at that company for 5 years. One manager can make everyone feel better or worse. So they say emotions are contagious. But what you can decide as an employee is you can decide to, despite their emotions or their whatever they're doing, to still be upbeat, positive, so that you can bring the change. So that's some of the things that I teach people to say, how do you then, once you are aware of your own emotions, how do you understand what's happening with your teams? So that's having empathy. You're putting yourself in their shoes. You're like, what are they going through? So if I'm noticing you're having a bad day, then I need to not just ignore it. I need to say, Khensani, I can see your eyes are red. Do you want to go and have a cup of coffee with me? I'm not labeling it. I'm not saying, are you sad? Are you upset? I'm not, but I can notice something's not okay. And now I'm responding to that. I want to care. I want to see how I can support, but I'm not making you a victim. Because sometimes sometimes what happens, if you've gone through heartaches, I've lost family members and that. If you're very sad and someone comes up to you and say, are you okay? Then you just get into the worst possible crying state, because they almost putting you down. While if they're coming and they actually encouraging, strong, when someone is very much down, sometimes they don't want to go there. Sometimes they don't want to, they are just barely coming by. They just want to be okay. They just want your support. So that's where the empathy comes in. If it was you, how would you want them to treat you? Would you want them to make you cry? Probably not. You would probably want them to go and have a cup of coffee or say to you, I can see something's going on. I'm totally available. If you ever want to come talk, if you need to leave earlier today, you're welcome. You know what I mean? I'm here for you. But I'm not going to force you to tell me what your wound is. Hey?
Yeah. Without saying what exactly is the problem, but just know that I can see that something is not okay. I normally say to myself and to other teams that I will train them on emotions, and I will say to them that, emotions are a wonderful tool because they help us respond to situations that we may encounter, right? And then they help us understand how other people are feeling. So it's up to you how you want to use your emotions. Some, they use their emotions to destroy. Some, they use their emotions to build. And it's very, very important. Like I said, you remember last week, I did mention that I'm a very emotional person. However, because of the skill that I have when it comes to emotional intelligence, even if I want to cry or you said something that is very, very hurtful, I can manage myself at the moment not to show others that you did hurt me at that point. And it's not what everybody has. It's very hard because of, you will say, how I can say, how can I put it? I can say, how are you feeling, right? And then you will respond and maybe you tell, no, I'm not okay. And why do you feel that way? why do you feel that you're not okay? And it's up to you to say, no, the reason I'm not okay, it's 1, 2, 3. But it's something that we tend to take it lightly. Like, you can see that somebody's not, you can see with your eyes that, no, my or my colleague is not okay, but you will just choose not to have that emotional intelligence to just step in and say hi. And sometimes I do understand that if you don't have a skill, you'll just be yourself. Oh, I saw that she had red eyes, but I didn't want to pry, or I just wanted to mind my own business. But how did you feel inside when you saw that? What I'm interested in is how did you feel? If you saw Khensani crying, sitting there, how did you feel inside? Even though you still want to mind your own business, how did you feel? Sad? Did you feel happy? Or did you say, no, she deserves it? But what is it that came into your mind or into your heart at the time when you see that? So most of the people it's so difficult to discuss true feelings, how they feel about it now.
Exactly.
Like so they don't want to say, they don't want to say, no, I saw it, then I felt sad. No, they don't want to mention that. They will say, no, I decided to mind my own business.
And that's like choosing not to have empathy. Because if you have empathy, then you feel with the other person. You don't have to drown with them, but you're all willing to go in there a bit to say, sure, if it was me, nothing would even cheer me up, but maybe a cup of coffee, or just saying to the person, like for me, when my dad passed away, so many people, they were just, even family members, they, some of them never even said to me that they are sorry that my dad passed away. And I was so shocked. And then there were these emotionally intelligent people that knew me and heard through other people, and that approached me at my church and said, we've heard the sad news. We just wanted to say that we're really sorry. And I was like, wow, I can be a friend. Immediately, I was like, this person, I will become their friend, because they were willing to talk to me, even though it was uncomfortable. They were willing to say that. And I really appreciated that so much, because nothing that you say to anyone when they've lost someone is going to make it better, but you can still support there and be there for them. And that's like with Brene Brown, that video link I shared last week, I can drop it in again, about empathy. It's like sometimes it's even saying to the person, I don't really know if I have anything to say to you. It's going to make you feel better. I don't actually know what to say, but just know I'm here for you. That will mean more than just keeping quiet or not approaching the person.
Yeah, that is so true. You even rather give them a hug without saying anything, and just know that I'm here for you. That's all. Because sometimes you might not find all the right words to say, but being there, it means a lot. It means a lot. So, Coach, we are going to the end of our show. Before we end the show, me and you, we can have a 3 to 4 hour session.
Easy. We'll have to train together.
So before we go to the end, I would like to know EQ versus IQ. Can you please explain that for us?
So IQ is like intelligence, where they do the intelligence test with people, while EQ is your ability to relate to people, put yourself in their shoes, and influence them. So what they found is people with a higher EQ, emotional intelligence, will tend to get better promotions. They're able to negotiate better salaries, go up in leadership, and ultimately do much better in their business or their career, because they can not only regulate their own emotions, but they can also notice what's happening with others, calm them down, uplift them, and influence them to a positive space. So, and it's a skill that you can learn and develop through training or coaching.
Yeah, and because why they do excel a lot is the manner of approach, how they approach things. That I remember I had one session with City of Joburg leadership, and I called one senior manager and another senior manager. Then I asked them a question. So they were not in the class at the time. Their 10 was coming, but I started with it was, which level? I don't remember which level was it, but it was not seniors. Then I called both of them and I said to them that, can you ask for promotion? How are you going to present yourself if you want a promotion? Let's say I'm your CEO or HR department, and you feel that you've been working here, and when it comes to your development, you're still in the same place after 10 years, and how are you going to present yourself when you want this promotion? Then I asked one to go outside, and we were left with one. Then the first one said, because I wanted them to present to the class so that they can hear how the manner of approach when it comes to approaching. Then he said that, hi Khensani, how are you? I said, I'm fine. So we were doing a role play. Then he said that, you know what, I don't think it's fair for me, since I've been in this company for 5 years and I'm still earning the same salary, and like the manner of approach. Okay, I said, all right, it's fine. Let me sleep on it, and then tomorrow morning come to my office. Let's further discuss. I'll think about it and let you know. Then he left. Right? Then we called another one, and the other one, he said, hi Khensani, how are you? Then I said, I'm fine. Then he was like, hey, I've seen you've been busy, ma'am, and I was wondering that since you've been busy, can I relieve you on some of your duties? But besides,
Wow.
I've been looking for an opportunity to grow in your space. So do you have anything that I can help you with? And maybe later you can consider to promote me to do my job and your job and increase my salary. And then I said, okay, thank you. I'll sleep on it. Let's talk about it tomorrow. I'll call you. I'll send you an email. Then he left. Then I asked the class, how was the approach? Which one will you hire?
Option B. Option B.
Because option A, he even mentioned how qualified he is, and all the skills that he had, and all that. Like he was telling us, like I have this certificate, I even done this and this and that. And like I said, you know what, let me not say it because I have EQ. It will be like I'm favoring the other one.
But you were asking them to think. Yeah.
Yes.
And like for
Then
me, no, continue.
Yeah, so I allowed the class to vote which one they would like to give a chance or to hire in that regard, especially when it comes to how they presented themselves. How can we, which one must I hire? Then they said, no, option B. Why option B? Then we discussed why option B. Then that's when they realized that some of the things and mistakes that they've been going through in their workplace, it's not the matter of maybe they not had by leadership and all that. It was the manner of approach, how they approach the matter, how they bring the matter to the table. And like I always say, that it's not what you're saying, it's how you say it for you to be heard. Because me and you, we can say the same thing, but how we say it will depend on which between me and you will get the job and all that.
Can I add something? So for me, in the second option, what was nice is the person made it more about you. So, so when you're trying to influence someone to just make it about yourself, is not going to work. It's all about what's in it for the other person. So he was trying to say to you, how can I take work away from you? How can I make your life easier for you? So I think that's an excellent approach. And possibly what he could have done as well is already gone with ideas. So the moment you're actually proactive and, you've been looking at this and this, and so I've done work on a career development plan where the HR manager said they're frustrated with people who always come to them and say, what's next? What's next? Like the first guy, why don't they come to HR and say, this is my plan, this is where I'm going, I have this mentor, I've done these courses, I'm thinking I need these skills. Can you also tell me, if they're going and saying, I've been thinking to really establish myself as a leader. I think I have these skills, but I think these are my weaknesses. And I wanted to know if you could mentor me or send me on a course to develop that skill, or is there a way that I could maybe transfer some of the skills to also uplift my successor? Because I know that I'm going to go up, so there needs to be someone trained for my job. You know what I mean? It's kind of like making your position available so they don't need you there anymore. You can actually go and do other strategic things.
Yeah, that's so true, because their input is also needed. It's also needed, the value that they have, because it's not about you coming to work each and every day, but what kind of a value do you bring in this organization? Because if you're not bringing any value, as soon as somebody comes and say, I was looking for a job and this is what I can offer you. Like, us as consultants, we always have something to offer organizations. And what is going to happen to those who are permanently employed for that position? So I'm bringing the solution, and you're just sitting there and in your comfort zone, believing that because you are a permanent employee, then nothing is going to happen to what you do. But if you can look at it now, is that consultants, we do proposal, we do presentations, we
all
go
the
to
time.
organizations, we present change, because we are in organizational change. We want to, we want companies to make profit, we want companies to grow, but in a different level now. And if you are there, you're just sitting in your chair waiting for your employer to give you something to do, I'm telling you, in the next 2 years, you won't have that job anymore, because you're not bringing anything to the table.
Value, yeah.
So it's a big problem, and things that they're facing now is that if you're not improving yourself, you're not going anywhere. Like I say every day, that leaders are learners. If you are a leader and you are not a learner, you will be left behind, because what you know today, tomorrow might not work for you. So that's why we keep constantly work. Consistency is what is needed when it comes to learning. It doesn't matter. That's why you will find so many workshops, like the workshop that you had last week. I had to attend it because I wanted to learn.
I'm so glad. It's so nice to have you there.
You see, so it's something that, some people see it as wasting time and wasting their data, but to be honest with you, showing up to shows like this, showing up to webinars that each and every coach have and all that, make sure that you just show up. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. But let me tell you, there's knowledge there. There are things, like last week when I attended, there are things that I thought about, but I wasn't considering it. Like you spoke about celebrating employees. How do we encourage them, motivate them, and keeping them motivated to work hard, to produce results and to perform better? And like now, it's like everybody's looking into how to minimize their budget, how to consult more instead of hiring, and what is going to happen to people who don't have business skills, who don't want to be entrepreneurs and all that. It's going to be difficult. So if you don't show up as an employee, these workshops are not only for leaders, coaches, It's for everyone. Every individual needs knowledge, because tomorrow the knowledge that you acquire today will fight for you in a boardroom. You'll be saying, no, recently I've learned that employees can get 1, 2, 3. But if you don't have that knowledge, how are you going to use it? You won't, because you don't have. That's why we always say knowledge is power. So it's so good for us to keep on learning every day. And we are running out of time, Coach, and we still have another show where we're still going to talk about resilience, and we have a lot. We have a lot. But please, for the sake of those who came late to the show, can you please give them your contact details so that they can start contacting you with the EQ and IQ? How can they get tools to manage themselves? And the questions that are said, like what triggers your anger, what habits do you want to change, how to connect with others, leading other people, how to identify when others are not feeling well, and all that, and what to say. And please leave your contact details, and we will continue again next week, because I have a lot of questions.
So what I'll do just for this show is I'm going to drop a discount code into the chat box. So if you're listening to this on radio, please go to the Facebook page or to the YouTube page, and you will find the discount code. And if you go to my online shop, you will be able to get discount on my 3 coaching sessions or on my individual coaching session. So I will make sure that I put a really nice discount code in there in a moment. So the website, and I will, and that code will be applicable for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And the website is y-connect.biz, y-connect.biz. I'll put that link into the comments on YouTube and Facebook with the discount code, which will be coaching hour. So I will put that in there for you, and you can then either purchase one of the downloadables with that, or you can actually book a coaching session with me where we can specifically work on triggers, your emotional intelligence, career development, presentation skills, or just helping you to become a more dynamic employee. So if you want to really level up, I hope that you're going to make use of this discount code so that you can get a coaching session at a much more affordable rate, just as a once-off, or you can purchase a package of 3 sessions, and I'll give you a nice code for both of those. So y-connect.biz. yconnect.biz. Thank you so much, Khensani. And then follow me on my YouTube channel, the Facebook, the Instagram. Sign up for my newsletter. There's a lot of free webinars and things that I do. Thank you so much for today.
And you're also on LinkedIn.
Under Joke van Dam. And I'll put that link in there for you as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach, for coming through. And you know, we are having each and every Tuesday, we're having a lot of things that we learn regarding the emotional intelligence. And now we have added the IQ. And if you don't understand what IQ is and what EQ is, please go back to the first session and just go through it. You will understand what emotional intelligence is and how it can help you. Coach, thank you so much. I'm humbled and honored of, you know what, I don't know what to say, but I know we have a lot to unpack and impact in others. And for tonight, thank you guys for tuning in, and remember to be kind all the time. Remember to be mindful. Remember that others don't know what you know. So don't go around assuming that people understand things the way you understand. That's why you need to be mindful at all times and make sure that before you respond or act irrationally, but you are able to understand exactly where this person comes from and all that. It's not easy all the time because we are all humans. I also get those moments where I'm like, but I will calm myself down. I know how to do it. I know how to do it. And yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in on a Tuesday night and sharing with your friends and families. And from me, Khensani, good night. I love you, Coach. Do you want to say good night?
Good night, everyone. Have an awesome time. And just the last thing, Khensani, what I noticed, when you've had an interaction with someone and you feel in your body that something doesn't feel right, go back and fix it. Because that's like also the Holy Spirit and even your body telling you, like, this is not resolved. You've probably not treated them in a nice way, and maybe you need to communicate. And sometimes we think we can just fix things over email, but what happens is you cannot just fix things over a text or email. The best way is face-to-face or a phone call where the person can hear that you're really sorry. So they need to hear that you are a bit uncomfortable. While if you just say to them, I'm sorry, but you sound sarcastic, nothing's going to happen. They're not going to forgive you. While if you really have remorse and they can hear it in your voice, then they will be able to forgive you.
So true. So true. Thank you so much, Coach. Have a lovely evening and thank you for coming through. We will see each other again very soon.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening. Bye, everyone, and have a blessed evening and take good care of yourself. Love you.